Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church, a church of open minds and loving hearts since 1866, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your identity are welcome here. Join us after the service for refreshments down in the Commons, or bring refreshments outdoors to the courtyard. There is a preschool playroom open for young ones and activities for children following the time for all ages. Find upcoming events in your order of service, including architect meetings throughout the summer as we continue our process for a new church home. Wednesday evenings this summer, join with others for a casual picnic summer at 5:30 at 3 Links Park near Silver Lake Pool and the playground. All are welcome. Today, we welcome back to our pulpit our guest preacher, the Reverend Sarah Smalley. Reverend Smalley is passionate about the promise of Unitarian Universalism as a faith that honors sorrow and amplifies joy, that creates authentic communities of transformation and belonging, and that inspires us and challenges us each to do our part to heal this broken and beautiful world. She serves the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northfield, Minnesota, as its minister and lives in Minneapolis. We're so glad you're here. And welcome to our guest musician, Lori Helmers. Lori has been our guest musician many times, but also was our music director here for 7 years. Just this last Friday, I saw her work on stage at RCT's Rochester Civic Theater, where she was the music director for Moana Jr. We're glad you're here. Most Sundays, our entire offering collection goes out the doors of our church to support work for a more just and loving world. This month's recipient is Children's Dental Health Services, which provides dental care services to underserved children. You can give online or as the plates pass. Thank you for your generosity. Now, let us enter this time of worship with these words from our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. We will now sing the hymn. Well, actually, we have music now.
Thank you. Good morning, all. I am Reverend Sarah Smalley, and it is good to be back here in Rochester this morning. I was here last July, so it's a nice tradition. I like it. We begin today with lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. When we gather, we bring this symbol to life together. Our chalice lighting words are Transfiguring Love by Chip Roche. Transfiguring meaning the kind of love that changes us and changes the world. Deeper than our DNA, more fundamental than molecules or quarks, at our living core, we are wholeness and transfiguring love. We often forget that power, becoming lonely or resentful, comparing ourselves to others, acting out of our fears rather than living our glory. Occasionally, we rouse from our trance to remember our wholeness. For a time, we embody unsentimental love. We make efforts to wake others and to remain fully present ourselves. Our lives and our time here together are made sacred by our striving. For our time together this morning and for the rest of our lives, may we become more aware of the spirit of life evolving through us and among us. This chalice is lit. As we become more fully present in this moment, bringing our awareness to the love within us and the love among us. May it be so. With our chalice flame illuminating this moment, we join our voices together in song. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. For our Time for All Ages, I invite you to just think about how you would finish these two sentences. Unitarian Universalists value, or Unitarian Universalists believe in. How would you answer those questions? What do we value? What do we believe in? I'm sure we could think of a long and interesting list, but I think the word that would come up most often is love, or some form of love. For the first, you might say, Unitarian Universalists value friendship, which is another way to say we value the ways we love one another. For the second, you might say, Unitarian Universalists believe in equality for all, which is another way to say we believe in a wide and welcoming love. Unitarian Universalists value love. We believe in love. Love is what each one of us needs and longs for, and at our best, it's what we offer the world. This reminds me of one of my favorite poems, which I'll share just a little bit of, and then I'll explain it so it makes sense. The poem is The Way It Is by William Safford, which reads in part, "There is a thread you follow. There is a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread." Now, this isn't an actual thread, but it's a thread we can imagine and grasp onto, especially when we're feeling sad or scared or lonely. Picture holding on to that thread that goes among all of us and is always within reach. It feels good. I posted that poem. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. You don't ever let go of the thread. With this picture on my Facebook page. This is a picture of someone doing a needlepoint canvas that says, love. As we hold on to that thread of love, we weave love into being. We don't ever let go of the thread of love. And as we hold it, we create more love in the world. It's so perfect, right? And then a friend responded to this picture with, I wish they would show the messy back of the piece. The back of a piece of needlepoint, where you can see only the echoes of colors and patterns that look so neat and tidy on the front, and that sometimes might reveal a tangled mess of knots. Isn't that also the way it is? Isn't it also our way to pretend the messiness isn't there? To hide it under perfect words, feeling like we should show the world a perfectly crafted image instead of the complexities of our hearts. But that messiness can also create beauty. Because sometimes we're cranky, even with the people we love. Sometimes they're annoying, and sometimes we are. What's important to remember is that we don't have to love perfectly, and we don't have to be perfect to be loved. So the next time you're cranky or sad or scared or lonely, I invite you to take a breath. Imagine grabbing on to and take hold of that thread, even if it's feeling a bit tangled up, and know that you are loved. As Lori plays piano, children, please meet Amy to go downstairs.
So you might have noticed that the titles of all of the songs today are about rain. I was practicing last night before I went to the theater, and it did rain on the way to the theater. So like the song from Moana, you could say, thank you, you're welcome. But I'm going to play more rain songs because as a farm girl, I selfishly would like 2 crops of hay for my horses. in the shade of this old tree, in the summer of my dreams, by the tall grass, by the wild rose, where the trees dance as the wind blows, as the days go so slowly, as that sun shines oh so holy on the good and gracious green, in the summer of my dreams.
Thank you, Lori. That was beautiful. Good morning. It is good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. It's our time to pause amidst the busyness of our lives, to slow down enough to consider the beauty that is here all around us, and to open a space for listening and love. Here, we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Julie Gilkinson, serving as our caring coordinator, arranging care for our members and friends in need. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. And life can be challenging. We could all use some extra support with what life throws at us. And if you are experiencing challenges in your life, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. If you need additional care or personal pastoral care, please reach out to Reverend Luke or myself. As we settle into this shared space today, I ask you now to breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning, and above you the sky and the stars shining with ancient light, holding you in this space, yourself made of earth and stars. Sit deeply here in this community of love and justice, hope and grace. Know that here you are named and you are known as beloved. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God of many names and beyond all naming, we hold in our hearts all those who suffer in mind, body, and spirit. I invite you to bring the names you are holding in your heart this day, in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For all those names spoken and unspoken, may we be held in love and grace. These words of meditation are by Dana Worsnop. I want to be with people. Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know just what they're getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God. I want to be with people who see me in my goodness and dignity, who also see my failings, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon this earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical thinking. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, and sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. May the faith in the Spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
Our reading today is Jan Richardson's Beloved is Where We Begin. If you would enter into the wilderness, do not begin without a blessing. Do not leave without hearing who you are. Beloved, named by the one who has traveled this path before you. Do not go without letting it echo in your ears. And if you find it is hard to let it into your heart, do not despair. That is what this journey is for. I cannot promise this blessing will free you from danger, from fear, from hunger or thirst, from the scorching of sun or the fall of the night. But I can tell you that on this path there will be help. I can tell you that on this way there will be rest. I can tell you that you will know the strange graces that come to our aid only on a road such as this, that fly to meet us bearing comfort and strength, that come alongside us for no other cause than to lean themselves toward our ear and with their curious insistence whisper our name, beloved, beloved, beloved. The ushers will receive the offering.
Thank you. As poet Jan Richardson reminds us, on the path of love, beloved is where we begin. This is our starting point. We are born from love, and into love we shall return. But what do we do in the short time between infinities we call a human life? The poem tells us that this is a dangerous and fearful journey through the wilderness, this thing called life. But on this journey, there is also help. There is also rest. There are strange graces who lean themselves towards our ear and with their curious insistence whisper our name, beloved. How does being called beloved sound in your ears and with your spirit today? Does it ring true or make you uncomfortable? Does it release something constricting your heart, or does it seem like a far-off impossibility, or all or none of the above? Our inner critic voices, the voices of those who have told us we are not good enough, not worthy, or too loud or too quiet, too sensitive or too needy, those voices can become louder than those strange graces whispering words of reassurance. I have heard that religious trauma is someone handing you an inner critic and telling you it's the voice of God, and that was true for me growing up. And so there have certainly been times in my life that I haven't felt loved, when the name beloved felt false. Someone from the outside might say, "Are you serious? Of course you're loved." But I haven't always felt it, and I know I'm not alone. The trailblazing Black feminist icon and author Bell Hooks talks about this head-on in her best-selling book, All About Love, New Visions. This is not a sweet little book about sweet little love. This book, All About Love, this book is a powerhouse of challenging, brilliant, gut-wrenching, and hopeful reflections about how patriarchy, modern culture, and fear corrupt our relationships. Bell Hooks looks unflinchingly at a world full of abuse, injustice, and isolation, and sees hidden there the transformative power of love. For Bell Hooks, love is not a feeling, it is an action. Love is a skill we can learn, and we must do so in order to counteract the lovelessness in our lives and in the world. This is from the preface of her book. Bell Hooks. When I was a child, it was clear to me that life was not worth living if I did not know love. I wish I could testify that I came to this awareness because of the love I felt in my life. But it was love's absence that let me know how much love mattered. I was my father's first daughter. At the moment of my birth, I was looked upon with loving kindness, cherished and made to feel wanted on this earth and in my home. To this day, I cannot remember when that feeling of being loved left me. I just know that one day I was no longer precious. Those who had initially loved me well turned away. The absence of their recognition and regard pierced my heart and left me with a feeling of brokenheartedness so profound I was spellbound. We can never go back. I know that now. We can go forward. We can find the love our hearts long for, but not until we let go of grief about the love we lost so long ago. I was still mourning, clinging to the broken heart of girlhood, to broken connections. When that mourning ceased, I was able to love again. I awakened from my trance state and was stunned to find the world I was living in, the world of the present, was no longer a world open to love. And I noticed that all around me I heard testimony that lovelessness had become the order of the day. I feel our nations turning away from love as intensely as I felt love's abandonment in my girlhood. Bell Hooks concludes, turning away, we risk moving into a wilderness of spirit so intense we may never find our way home again. I write of love to bear witness both to the danger of this movement and to call for a return to love. In other words, beloved may be where we begin, but it is easy to lose our way. It is easy to get lost on a false path, a path that is not love, longing to find our way home again. This morning, I want to offer 3 ways to return to the path of love, particularly self-love. If you are traveling along well-worn ruts like self-doubt, self-judgment, or self-abandonment, these trails may help you find your way back to the path of love. Some might be helpful detours for you, some dead ends. Follow the ones you might want to travel on for a bit, or if none of these work for you, forge your own. A note about these paths back to loving oneself this morning. They all, starting with bell hooks, include reflections from writers of color. One of the main ways I personally am trying to quiet the voices of self-judgment and self-abandonment is to intentionally and consistently get other voices in my head besides dominant, white, patriarchal, heteronormative cultural norms. In the words of best-selling author and activist Sonia Renee Taylor, whose work focuses on body liberation and racial justice, think of radical self-love as resistance training against our decades-old, tight, calcified thoughts. Radical self-love is resistance training to our calcified thoughts. Dominant cultural values scream of rugged individualism, physical attractiveness, status, and perfectionism. Let us also hear voices of connection, authenticity, courage, and joy. And so we begin this resistance training at the start of the first trail that might lead you back to the path of love if you veered off course. A reminder of what self-love is not, so we can see more clearly those false paths. Don't go down the false path of self-sufficiency and call it self-love. From The Rose Speaks. I want us to be more mindful of telling people to just love themselves more. Sometimes a person isn't missing self-love. Sometimes they're missing community love. Sometimes they need the love of their village, because in all honesty, we were never meant to go through so much alone. We often hear things like, if you don't love yourself, how can you expect others to love you? Single adults are often told to work on loving themselves so they are worthy of a partner. Reject this idea that you have to earn love. In the words of Chance Marshall, a therapist who specializes in addiction therapy and who works with refugees and asylum seekers, these sentiments of the self-love movement have caused so many of us to hold on tightly to the idea that we need to fully love ourselves in order to be lovable, that we need to have fully worked on ourselves, be all tidied up, put together, and completely emotionally, physically, socially, and spiritually healthy before we can really be lovable. We don't learn to love ourselves in isolation because we don't exist in isolation. To be human is to need other humans, and our capacity to love ourselves is often based on the amount of love we've received from others. It's all good and well shouting, "Love yourself," at the top of our voices. But when that's heard by those of us who have found it hard, Those of us who have experienced our needs going unmet, of having countless disappointing relationships, prolonged periods of isolation or loneliness, abusive partners, or emotionally neglectful parents, it can leave us feeling like we're the ones failing, or that there is something wrong with us. If this is you, know you are not alone. In other words, when someone is hurting, telling them to just love yourself more is not a helpful message. It's the self-help equivalent of just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It doesn't help when we tell it to ourselves either, and shame ourselves for not loving ourselves enough to be lovable. The first path back to love, then, when we've lost our way, is this simple truth. We heal in relationship. Again, the words of bell hooks. Whether we learn how to love ourselves and others will depend on the presence of a loving environment. Self-love cannot flourish in isolation. Self-love cannot flourish in isolation. This means self-love demands courage. It might mean asking for help and admitting our needs. It might mean setting a boundary, making a therapy appointment, or going to whatever equivalent of a 12-step program might work for you. It means more of what we're practicing here now in this community, dedicating ourselves to building community in a culture that isolates and claiming our belonging in the world. A second possible path back to self-love, if you've detoured away. Self-love is embodied, literally. Again, the words of Sonia Renee Taylor from her book, her amazing book, The Body is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love. Humans are a varied and divergent bunch with all manners of beliefs, morals, values, and ideas. We have struggled to find agreement on how much of anything over the centuries. Just think about how long we argued about gravity and whether the world is shaped like a pizza. But here is a completely non-controversial statement I think we have consensus around. You, my dear, have a body. And should you desire to remain on this spinning rock hurtling through space, you will need a body to do it. Everything else we think we know is up for debate. Are we spiritual beings? Depends on who you ask. Do humans have souls? Been fighting about that since Aristotle likened the souls of fetuses to those of vegetables. But bodies, yep, we got those. And given this widely agreed upon reality, it seems to me, if ever there were a place where the practice of radical self-love could be a transformative force, the body ought to be that location. Taylor continues, racism, sexism, ableism, homo and transphobia, ageism, fat phobia are algorithms created by humans' struggle to make peace with the body. A radical self-love world is a world free from the systems of oppression that make it difficult and sometimes deadly to live in our bodies. A radical self-love world is a world that works for every body. I am drawn to this truth that Taylor articulates so well. Radical self-love is anti-oppression work. It's how we all get free. If I claim and proclaim the inherent worth and dignity of everyone, that includes me. It doesn't stop with me, but it includes me. We can't hate ourselves into a version of ourselves we love. I wonder, How many unkind thoughts or feelings of shame have you had about your body in your lifetime? If we added up every unkind thought every one of us in worship today had about our bodies, how much love would we need to counteract that? Let's love ourselves that much. We are told our value comes from our thinness, our attractiveness, our wealth. But we're alive on this wondrous planet, hurtling through a universe so immense as to be unfathomable. I keep reminding myself how absurd it is that the shape of my body is any factor in my happiness. Author, activist, and nurturer of Black liberation, radical imagination, and transformative justice, Adrienne Maree Brown, speaks of embodied self-love in her article, Self-Love as a Journey, Practice, and State. In this article, Adrienne Maree Brown talks about the first time she wore a bikini in public as a self-described fat Black woman. Choosing joy instead of shame, the sun on her belly, and claiming freedom for her body, she writes, "Today I am wearing a bikini in public. I consider this miraculous occurrence as proof positive that self-love work is worth it. Self-love is a journey. I keep finding new bends in the road. First, I couldn't say fat. Then I couldn't show certain parts of my body. Then I couldn't trust other people's attraction to me as legitimate. Then I could see something appealing in my face, but not look below the neck. Then I kept unveiling more and more of myself. Then I had an ectopic pregnancy and reached my highest weight and had scars on my bellies and dimples on my thighs and doubt in my heart. Then I created circles of community around the truth of my feelings about my body. Then I told someone my love of my body was unshakable, and it became true. Then I began to stand up straighter and get somatic healing and sashay when I walked and believe people when they said I was irresistible. In the past few months, I've experienced so much laughter, joy, and pain, grief. I am feeling more and more of my own emotional range. And as I feel more, it becomes easier to move towards what I want without apology or guilt." Brown ends with this. "I live in a country and world where those in power want me to submit or disappear. Nope. In fact, I will be more of myself. I am 38, and this is a first in my adult life. My thighs dimple, my scars pock, my belly is soft, and the bikini is red." Joy is an act of resistance. Loving your body is an act of resistance in this culture. What is the equivalent of this red bikini for you? Something you can do to choose joy over shame, a way to love your body as it is, recognizing it as sacred and therefore worthy of celebrating. As Cole Arthur Riley says, "We are tricked into believing we are anything less than glorious. A person does not wish to be seen if they believe they are ugly. What if, instead of hiding, you believed that you were glorious?" A third possible path back to self-love is simply and profoundly, I think, befriending yourself. Befriending yourself with all of your imperfections and all of your very complicated, very human feelings. This is an invitation to gentleness. Buddhist loving kindness meditation teaches us one way to practice this kind of care for our hearts. Loving kindness meditation starts with self and gradually extends to all beings, from self to a loved one to a small group and on to larger groups, strangers, those we find difficult, ever widening the reach of loving kindness breath by breath. The language repeats over and over, but it necessarily starts with self. It always starts with self. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be peaceful and at ease. How easy it is to rush over this wish, wanting to move on to the perhaps much easier task of wishing a friend well. How hard it is to sink into these words. May I be happy. May I be peaceful and at ease. Maybe feelings of not being good enough or worthy enough come barreling into our thoughts. In You Are Here, discovering the magic of the present moment, the late Buddhist Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh writes, if you feel irritation or depression or despair, recognize their presence and practice this mantra. Dear one, I am here for you. You should talk to your depression or your anger just as you would a child. You embrace it tenderly with the energy of mindfulness and say, dear one, I know you are there, and I am going to take care of you. Dear one, grief, I am here for you. Dear one, inner critic, it sounds like you need a snack. Dear one, anger, you don't have to be afraid. In this way, we befriend ourselves. We whisper to ourselves, beloved, beloved, it's okay. You have strayed from the path of love that is your birthright, but your breath will bring you back. You know the way. You know the way home. May it be so, and amen. I want to invite us to take a breath, and then in a moment, we'll sing number 188, How Could Anyone? But before we sing, here is the invitation. We'll sing this song 3 times through. The first time through, simply sing to get to know the song and sink into its truth. The second time through, sing it to those in this gathered community, meaning it. And the third time through, sing it to yourself, knowing it. Let's sing together. Please rise in body or spirit. benediction is words attributed to Sufi mystic and poet Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. May the barriers that hold love back dissolve for you, for us, for this world. May we make it so. Amen, and blessed be.